Hey, this is Abby McGee with the Business from Scratch podcast. Today, my guest is one I'm super excited about. I met Chris at the Coastal Entrepreneur of the Year Award this past year. He owns Capone and Associates. He serves as a CPA, fractional CFO service, which might sound like a foreign language, but to all business owners, let me tell you that the most important thing you can do is get your numbers right. So today we talk about all the things that we get wrong and how to fix it. So stick around. This is a really important one. You're going to learn a whole lot.
You're listening to Business from Scratch, the podcast for people building businesses they love without losing themselves along the way. I'm your host, Abby McGee. Let's get started.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, it's exciting to be invited.
Yeah. I think you are my third guest.
Awesome.
So thanks for being a guinea pig.
Happy to do it.
But it's great to have you on. I'm excited to learn from you today. And selfishly, I think that's most of what this podcast is about me continuing to learn and figure business out because, man, it's a journey.
Yeah.
But Chris, in your experience, what is the single fastest way a business accidentally kills itself financially in the very beginning?
Oh man, I know that answer immediately. It's just trying to grow too fast and do too much at once.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of start with a little bit of success and you feel it, and then trying to expand too quickly, and I think this kind of goes in the same vein as expanding too quickly, is not sticking to your core focus or what your core competency is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I've been really passionate about, just like with the business that we've started, because being, in the bookkeeping and accounting and CFO space, there's so many other opportunities that kind of like pop up along the side. You're like, oh, we could do that. Like, man, a lot of small businesses need help with that, but we've just been very much like, no, like we're going to follow what our core competency is, and we're going to build a team of really good referral partners around us that can like help other businesses.
What have you said no to during that process?
Whew. Well, the biggest one is like, do you guys do taxes? Because it's like, hey, you do our bookkeeping. You're our CFO. Can you, just file our taxes as well? It's like, no. There's so much more that goes into that. It's really a whole different level and workflow, and so that would be the biggest one that I'd say.
Do you have any examples from clients that you've worked with who you've tried to help them pull back from growing too fast because they're running themselves into the ground financially?
Yeah, it's hard to do, because
once the horse is out of the gate.
yeah, it's once that's one reason it's hard, is like once you get going and you commit to a bunch of stuff and you take on all this overhead, like a lease, for example, or employees, it's not something that you could just turn off the next day. I mean, some of it you can, the majority of it you can. So it's hard. It's so much harder to contract in that sense as it is it's easier to expand. Like it's easier to say
Just to
yes,
keep
yes,
going.
and just to keep going. But once you get that thing rolling, it can be hard to slow it down. And also, when you're working with a visionary founder, like they're so passionate, and it's hard to like say, no, like you shouldn't do that. And I've been fortunate to work with a couple business coaches and mentors, and in those conversations where I see them trying to like reel me back a little bit, as they ask questions. They don't tell me, hey, don't do this, don't do that. They ask good questions that make me think it's where I could somehow get to that answer myself. And at some point it's just like, hey, this person's going to do what they want to do, and let's support them.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here for. But
I remember when we first opened the Ibis, anytime you open a new bar in this town, right, you're the exciting new thing and everybody comes. So our first like 2 months it was packed, like lines out the door, waiting list, that kind of thing. And I was like, look how good we did. This is amazing. Let's knock this wall out and make it bigger. And I was this close to taking on a second lease in the space next door and knocking a wall out and making it bigger.
Yeah.
And I just was like, Abby, take a breath.
Wow.
And think about this, let things settle. And I'm so glad I did, that I didn't just like impulsively, because we were successful right from the beginning, take that on. But it is such a temptation to do when you feel like things are going so well and you're like, let me do more. This is working. Let me do more.
That's like a perfect example.
Yeah.
And especially in, like you said, like in the restaurant bar business, because we do work with we've worked with some folks in the past where, yeah, that first month, those first couple months, you're like the
Mm-hmm.
new hit thing in
Mm-hmm.
town, and you're like, oh man, we're blowing our pro forma out of the water. Like we're
Mm-hmm.
gonna keep doing this. Let's grow, grow, grow.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of normalizes a little
Yes.
bit.
Yeah. And then you find out what it's going to be on a regular basis. So, what kind of things do you, if you were working with a new business owner who was trying to make these decisions, what do you advise them to look at? What are some metrics that you advise them to look at, or do you coach them through to when it is time to grow?
Yeah. So the first thing that we do, and this is, kind of just more in line with what our services are, because we want to figure out where are we currently in our financial position? Like,
Hmm.
let's understand what our current financials are. Let's look at what our cash flow is. Let's look at what our debt service is. Like it's very, very much tied to like financial metrics.
Hmm.
And then from there, it's like, okay, this is what you want to do. And if you do this, then this is what it means for cash flow.
Hmm.
It's a lot of it's very much tied to the cash flow
Hmm.
piece, right?
Well, let's talk about cash flow
Yeah.
because I know a lot of business owners who don't even know what that means.
Hmm.
So, can you give a brief definition of what that is and how it actually works, what you should be looking for?
Yep. In simplest terms, your cash flow is what you're left with at the end of a period.
Mhm.
Whether it's typically we look at that on a monthly basis because
Mhm.
that's, we do financial reporting on a monthly basis, but you have expenses, you have debt service, and those things are all eating up your cash.
Mhm.
And so we got to figure out, how much money are you going to be left with at the end of the period if you do
Mhm.
something.
Yeah.
So,
What about if you like so my one of my main businesses is very seasonal.
yeah.
So, I have these really low dry seasons in January through March
Hmm.
and then again July, August, September. So, if you are working with a business that is seasonal, where your uh, your money coming in changes drastically,
Yeah.
how do you prepare knowing that you still need money in the bank during the dry seasons? So, how do you advise people to plan for that
Yeah.
and adjust for that?
Well, I mean, being aware of it is the first step.
Mhm.
Like you're like, I know that
Mhm.
we're doing really, really well right now, and we're gonna have some time of the year where it's gonna get really slow. So that's the first step.
Mhm.
Um, but again, it's like it's not. It sounds harder than it is. I mean, it's really, again, I tend to oversimplify things, but
Mhm.
simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. I stole that quote from somebody else. But, just keeping it simple is
Mhm.
what's our how much cash do we need to have to make it through our slow period? Doomsday scenario. Let's assume we don't sell anything,
Mhm.
right? How much cash do we need to pay rent, pay utilities, pay insurance, pay our employees?
Mhm.
All right, that's one data point. And call it, I don't know, $50,000.
Mhm.
Okay, obviously we're probably not going to have zero sales. So let's run a scenario where maybe using some historical data, like we've been in
Mhm.
business for a couple of years, historical data is always, a good data point as well. But, let's run a couple different scenarios, A, B, and C. So we know worst case scenario, we need 50 grand. That, middle case scenario, we might need 25 grand. Or, if we're able to maybe have like I'm using the restaurant business as an
Mhm.
example, but
Yeah.
maybe we're able to get a corporate event in,
Mhm.
during the slow period, which could be a nice chunk of cash. And
Mhm.
that's best case scenario. So it's just kind of having those ideas. And then when you know what the targets are, then it's just like you got to consistently measure it and stay on top of it.
Yeah.
And that's what's so hard for small businesses because, you know, the business owner starts as typically the operator, the visionary, you're doing
Mhm.
everything. And the last thing that anybody wants to do is like sit down and do their QuickBooks or like
I
balance their
know.
checkbook or,
Yeah.
it's kind of just like, oh, well, just revenue solves all. Like, let's,
Mhm.
and then you start taking on projects and you're like, how do I get into this
What
position?
have I done? Especially if you don't understand the numbers and how to read it, and most people don't, and I didn't in the beginning, and I still am learning now. But I have a great CPA who has functioned as a fractional CFO for me
It's
in
awesome.
periods when I've needed it.
That's fantastic.
But she has really helped me kind of look ahead and plan for things. And in the beginning, I didn't know.
Yep.
I didn't know what cash flow was. I didn't know how
Yep.
to plan for the slow seasons. But knowing your numbers and knowing how to plan for them is such a key to not dying.
Yep.
You know.
Well, what you just said, you with your fractional CFO, she's helping you look into the future.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the ultimate role of a CFO, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
is looking into the future. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, we have to have like a good understanding of where we are financially today,
Mm-hmm.
but that's more of like the accounting bookkeeping
Mm-hmm.
portion. But when you get a good advisor like you have, it sounds like, where they're helping you look into the future, that's
Mm-hmm.
when you've got a good person on your team, and
Yeah.
that's what a CFO should be doing.
When do you think is the right time for a new business to consider adding fractional CFO service to their plate?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I would love to say that, from day zero, it'd be
Right.
great to just talk with an advisor, just,
Mm-hmm.
hey, here's my business plan. Here's what I'm thinking. Or you might go and talk to them and they might ask you where your business plan is. And you're like, "Oh, I don't really have
I
one."
don't have
And
one.
that's
My
valuable.
plan is to make things and sell them.
Yeah.
That's my plan.
I'd love to say day zero, but like that's not practical for
Mm-hmm.
everybody, right? Because, you've got to pay for those
Mm-hmm.
services, but there's ways where you might be able to barter, or
Mm-hmm.
you might find somebody with out of the kindness of their heart that'll
Mm-hmm.
have lunch with you and, talk you,
Mm-hmm.
give you a little input. But I mean, if you can, the sooner the better,
Yeah.
because typically a lot of the engagements that we work with is, we come in after a couple years, and in the first several months is like, okay, we got to like clean up
Mm-hmm.
all this
Take
historical
some time.
information
Yeah.
and take some time.
Yeah.
And ultimately you end up spending the same amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah. I wish I had done it from day one for sure. And if I could go back, I would.
yeah,
As I spent a lot of time that I could have been way farther ahead than I am now if I had done that from the beginning. Do you offer something kind of like a new business advising package that's not full CFO services, but might be that you can help them kind of see some pitfalls and set things up properly?
yeah, I mean, not like formally. I tell people I'm always happy to like have lunch or have a beer with
Mm-hmm.
someone and just talk about their business, and if I can
Mm-hmm.
help them out,
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And within an hour, like, we could cover a lot of
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
um But the way we work, it's like we don't have like a ABC package. It's just like, what do you want? What do you need?
Mm-hmm.
And let's see if we can fit that within the budget that you have.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I don't, it's not the best answer, but that's
Yeah.
just kind of like we're like a boutique kind
Yeah.
of firm where it's just like every business has their own, similarities, right?
Mm-hmm.
But every business is unique, and every business has different goals, and success is a subjective term and different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, how can we just say, yeah, we're going to put you into package A over here? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, no, I need this, this, and this. And, we
Customize it.
yeah, and just customize it.
So if you were having a beer with somebody starting a new business or
Yeah.
somebody who maybe is new in business, but they're a few months down the road, what are 3 things that are like foundational things that you would tell people to have set up from the very beginning?
Yeah. So I would say that if you're really serious about starting a business, just do like the basic stuff, like you're talking. Get a business bank account, get a
Mm-hmm.
business credit card, and whether you set up an LLC and have a separate EIN,
Mm-hmm.
you could start a business without having to do that, but get a
Mm-hmm.
separate bank account, get a separate credit card, because like
Mm-hmm.
the number one thing you see when people start businesses is the intermingling of personal funds
Mm-hmm.
and business funds, because when it starts, it typically is. It's like, it's
Mm-hmm.
my money,
Mm-hmm.
my personal money, but being able to separate that is just gonna, one, help you get more transparency into your
Mm-hmm.
personal versus business,
Mm-hmm.
but also it's just gonna kind of get you set up on like a good foundational.
So is that more of a legal, like tax issue if things are all commingled, or is it more of a clarity in your books issue so you can plan better?
Yeah,
Is it both?
no, it's totally both.
Mm-hmm.
And it's everybody's like worst nightmare is like, I'm gonna get audited by the IRS and I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
go to jail. And I mean, if you're a brand new small business and you're spending a couple $1,000 and you're commingling funds, like,
It's not that big of a deal.
you're not
Mhm.
on the radar. Like, you know,
Mhm.
you're not doing anything.
Mhm.
You're not trying to defraud the government. You
Yeah.
know, that's what they're
Yeah.
looking for. But I would say in the beginning stages, the most important thing is just the transparency,
Mhm.
right? As you grow, that commingling and stuff becomes a little bit more for like liability purposes and
Mhm.
you know in regulation and stuff. But at the
Mhm.
beginning, it's just so that you can truly understand where your business at and
Mhm.
where you are personally.
I imagine it gets really muddy if you like if you were to start a business with the intent to sell it one day, or
Hmm.
if you start a business without that intent, but you get into it and you're like, oh, let's do something different.
Yeah.
I bet if your books are a mess like that, it makes it very hard to be attractive to a buyer because there's no way to know what's real and what's not.
Yeah, you're spot. I should like hire you to be one of our salesmen. Like that's that's perfect. No, you couldn't be more spot on with that. I
Mhm.
mean, even it's almost like just like the smell test too. Like
Mhm.
if someone wants to acquire your business and it takes you weeks to get them financials, and when
Mhm.
you get them, they don't really make sense,
Mhm.
automatically, it's
Mhm.
like, you know, the first impression, right?
Yep.
So if you can have, you know, good financials that are, you know, pretty much ready at any point in time, and it's not like, hey, yeah, like, you know, like my last month's financials are ready.
Mhm.
Um, that goes a long way. It just creates a lot of credibility to start the
Mhm.
next stages of the due diligence.
Yeah.
And you know, going back to your question on, you know, what would you like, you know, kind of tell business owners when they get started or
Mhm.
is, you know, I've worked with, you know, when I started, I had like a business coach and some mentors
Mhm.
in the accounting and the finance. It's all very important.
Mhm.
But, you know, having like a vision, having a plan, having, you know, something that's actually like valuable,
Mhm.
setting that stuff up is most important, right? Because if you don't
Mhm.
have if you don't have any of that, you're
Mhm.
not going to have any revenue and you're not going to really have anything to account for,
Mhm.
right? So,
Yeah. I like to think of it as the books, the financial part of it is not the sexy part of running a business. It's like the boring but necessary.
yeah,
And you can't support the vision you have for your business if everything is a mess and if you can't pay your bills and
yeah,
if you got 1 month left and then you're going to be closing your doors. So
spot on.
equally important, I think. I have a lot of vision, a lot of drive, and I'm not good at money. So if I had did not have Jen in my life
Yeah.
to keep me wrangled financially, my businesses would be closed
Well,
now.
how'd you start from 0 then? I mean, I'm sure you had some sort of financial acumen or
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I had like basic knowledge, but I from one of the first things I did was hire a CPA.
okay. Yeah.
So, and it was not the one I have now. The one I had when I started, she retired, but I know myself,
Mhm.
and I know that that's not my strength. And I think I look at every thing I add to my business or every new hire, like if I'm hiring a new team member that's scary to hire, but it's not my strength. I want to be able to focus on pushing this business forward, not balancing the checkbook and
Exactly.
thinking about. I want my CPA to be able to say, "Hey, you're not going to have enough money to pay your bills next month. You better go out and get a new contract."
Yeah, exactly.
So it was important to me that I established that from day one, because I'm just not good at it.
Well, I wonder if that's just a coincidence to why you've been successful in building businesses or if that's
I think it's
part of the reason why.
I think it's definitely helped
Yeah.
for sure. I don't think I'd still be open if I didn't have help
Yeah.
in that arena.
Yeah.
So, I value Jen. She's one of my most valuable people.
That's awesome.
Quick break. I have to tell you about Unfilter. When I first started creating content, I had no idea how to pull all my ideas together. I was all over the place, a little short form, a little podcasting, nothing consistent. Working with Rich and the team at Unfilter changed that completely. Rich will bring order to your content chaos. Seriously, if you're a founder or creator who wants clarity and direction, go to unfilter.io. That's UNFLTR.io and schedule a call. Some coaching might be all you need to get moving.
How do you recommend owners balance growing their business, right? Investing in growth versus protecting their cash flow?
Yeah, that's like the $1,000,000 question,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Um it comes down to, well, it comes down to what's the long-term vision and goal, right? We got to start there and work backwards, because there could be a lot of opportunities. There could be a lot of, different things that might be able to generate some revenue or some return. But ultimately, we got to prioritize those opportunities based on ROI and alignment with your strategic plan, right? So, I'll use my business for example. We've got a goal to, be able to grow and be a big, consulting and accounting firm. And the most important investment that I could make in my business is hiring people, right? Because if we don't have good people, and because if we don't have good people, then we can't execute the work, and we're never going to be able to grow. Whereas, like one of the other things could be, hey, we need to invest in marketing. We need to get our name out there. We need to build our brand. We need to get leads in the door. But just personally, what I did was, okay, my form of marketing is I'm just going to network as much as possible, because I don't have to use my money for that. It's my time, which, is extremely valuable in of itself. But that's something that I like to do. It was fun, and, it was a way to get started. And I was like, okay, I need to conserve my cash for people. And then it became, okay, now I need to have space for us all to come together and work and collaborate and be a little bit more credible than, a couple folks working out of their houses and stuff. Right. And, so I think I'm losing track a little bit
No, you're
on your
doing great.
question, but
No, you're doing great. It's always the balance of like growth, investing in growth, but making sure you can still pay the light bill.
exactly.
So, and I know that that's different for everybody and depends on what your values are, what your goal is. And I'm sure that that ROI is another key term that I think people don't think about either, especially like when you want to invest in marketing, how to evaluate what that should be, could be, how to look at it as you're going, and are you even getting an ROI? So I've invested in some marketing things that I didn't get any money back on.
I think marketing is one of the hardest things to measure. It's something that if you don't do it right, you could spend a ton of money. That's like I think that's one of the line items on the P&L that we have the most discussion around, where it's just like, it's so much more qualitative discussion than quantitative discussion. Because it's, you take out an ad in the newspaper, like, how do you measure your return on that? It's hard.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Yeah.
So, and there's some value to, and this is not a marketing conversation, but there is some value to like spending the money to get your name out kind of in a blanket way, so that people know that you're there, and you can't quantify that for sure, but it's necessary.
But it's necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure.
Someone much smarter than I, one of my mentors, told me, you got to go slow to go fast. Right. And so what that meant for me was, I could try and hire more and more people to bring in new business. Or what I could do is, because I was always trying to like manage like the capacity of our team. And like I was trying to hire, I've always kind of tried to hire ahead, because my fear, like my worst nightmare, is we take on too much and then we can't execute the work that we're doing. So, I'd figured out this balance where I wanted to be able to generate enough cash in the bank so that we could hire people. But also, as we hire people and we grow and maybe we lose some clients, that we're not like 100% dependent upon our monthly recurring revenue. We've got some cash in the bank that, can, float us through, like a reserve, for example.
Pay for that new hire until they're paying for themselves, basically.
Exactly. And, it's crazy that, my decision-making and my actions, when I feel good about our financial position, are much better decisions and much better actions. When things start to get a little, things get a little scary, it's my decision making gets a little, like drastic. It's like, oh, we need to, but
start getting frantic and desperate instead of making measured, wise decisions.
Exactly. So, and I think most people are like that. I think, you sleep good at night when you got cash in the bank. Like,
for sure.
Like,
is that a thing, to have cash in the bank?
Yeah.
What? That's a new concept.
Oh man.
Oh, I've struggled the most with knowing when to hire administrative positions because
Mm-hmm.
they're not income generating,
Yep.
and it's hard to measure that to know
Yep.
when it's time.
Yeah.
And every time I've hired, I've not regretted it. It's always expanded the capacity of the business, right? And helped us to execute well. But those are the scariest ones to hire, is the ones that are just doing the bulk of the back end work, but they're not making the casserole, right? They're not,
Exactly.
cooking the steak for the client. Those are the harder ones for me to do, but I have always been happy that I did. So,
Absolutely.
do you help your clients know how much do you dial or drill down with your clients about decisions like that? Do you help your clients know when it's the right time to hire and when it's the right time to open a new location?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and having like the financial data for those discussions is super important,
Mhm.
but a lot of it comes down to just like more of the qualitative data. Like I'm a business owner, I'm working 80 hours a week. I've got, a family, I've got kids.
Mhm.
If I hired a person, I'd be able to get, 20 to 30 hours back a week.
Mhm.
And, depending on what your definition of success is, that
Mhm.
that might be the best ROI for you,
Mhm.
right? So, um, that's a and I think, working with small business, that's a lot of the discussions that we have, because it's owner operators and, it's really fun to watch businesses go from being the owner operator to building a leadership team,
Mhm.
where that owner is now, more of a is just more focused on leadership
Mhm.
or maybe they've hired someone that focuses on leadership and that business owner can just focus on like they're a creative or
Mhm.
they're a surgeon or a doctor and they've hired a business administrator to take over the
Mhm.
whole business
Mhm.
so that they could focus on what they're really good at, which is
Mhm.
treating patients, for
Right.
example.
Right. I think one of the things that I still struggle with now, and it's as a creative, which I consider myself creative,
Mhm.
I have all these things that are like super important to me, right? They're my creative babies,
Yeah.
and when I start to look at the numbers and start to really think about how to analyze all these things that I've created, all these little kids I've birthed,
Yeah.
which one is worth keeping in its heart? It's terrible to think about it
Yeah.
as like a kid. But do you find that people have a hard time letting go of parts of their business that aren't profitable, to focus on the parts that are? I mean, we have multiple streams of revenue in Salt and Charm, and every time we try to analyze a piece of the business that we might consider letting go of, I'm like, but no, we can't. That's who we are. Like,
Yep.
so how do you coach people through that, looking at the areas of their business to know what to say goodbye to and what to invest more in?
Yeah. No, that's a really great question. And I think like the hardest thing for a business owner in general is to let go. Like, let go of control over this or let go,
Mhm.
from being involved in that. Like that's scary.
Mhm.
Um, but more specifically to your question, where you're looking at different parts of the business where the owner might just like, I love doing this, like
Mhm.
this brings me a lot of joy.
Mhm.
Um, but then that's the power of having a good finance team, a good
Mhm.
accountant, because we could say, we know you love this, but you're literally losing money.
Losing money, yeah.
You are literally losing money
Mhm.
doing this. Um, and again, our job as a coach and advisor is we try to refrain from telling people what to do because, we try to lead them to the
Mhm.
right answer
Mhm.
using data,
Yeah.
asking questions. And most people, if you put something in front of them and be like, hey, like you're literally losing money over here, but you're making a bunch of money over here. Their first reaction is like, no, that's not right. You need to go back and check those numbers, right?
That can't be
That
right.
can't be right. That's the best part of our business. And then, you go through a couple iterations like, dude, we have
Mhm.
scrubbed this,
Mhm.
and like this is really what it is. And
Mhm.
there's not ever been a situation where someone's like, okay, like I'm gonna keep doing that no matter what.
Mhm.
It's like that's a pretty extreme example when you know
Mhm.
that you're losing money.
Mhm.
But a different part that might be difficult is like, hey, we're just, we're making money here and it's not the most profitable part of the business. if we were to just, add on one more thing or
Mhm.
get that one job that we're chasing.
Mhm.
And that's part of business
Mhm.
is that just like iterative process of trying
Mhm.
to figure out what the main,
Yeah.
the best thing is.
Well, and if you know your numbers enough to see, okay, this area is not super profitable, but if I make these changes, it could be super profitable. But if you just keep going
Exactly.
the way you're going and just letting it ride
Yep.
because you think it's a valuable part of the business, but it's just really not.
Yep.
So we've done that in a couple of areas where we know they're not the most profitable, but we invest some resources and and boost it up so that it is.
Yep.
But if you don't look at it and you don't know, it's just going to stay stagnant.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then being able to measure it like regularly on a go forward basis. It's like, hey, we made a decision that we were going to make this investment and these were our expectations and we're either
Mm-hmm.
hitting our expectations or we're not.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
Another thing to that is like you can't fix an indecision. Like if you just don't make a decision, you can't fix it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, hey, we decided that we're going to do this,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, we're gonna go for it. And if it works, great. And if it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, we'll have to, you know, adjust or
Yeah.
pivot or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
So
think for a business owner, the most critical one of the most critical traits you can have is the ability to just make a decision,
yeah,
to gather the information and then decide.
yeah,
Like the floundering, the waiting
yeah. The
gets you in trouble.
analysis
Paralysis.
paralysis.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a fine line between that and like just the knee jerk reaction decision, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would almost sometimes rather someone make that, go with your gut. I mean, if you got all this data that's telling you a bunch of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes I've done this and seen a lot of people be very successful with it. Is
Mm-hmm.
go with your intuition, go with your gut, and again, if it's not right, then we'll
Yeah, you can fix
adjust.
it.
But if we don't do anything,
Mm-hmm.
we're just wasting our time. We're
Mm-hmm.
wasting our energy. We're wasting our mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
So one of the things that we didn't actually do in the beginning was to define the difference between, for our listeners, define the difference between a CPA, a bookkeeper, a CPA, and a CFO.
yeah, a bookkeeper is in charge of keeping the records
Mm-hmm.
so that you have accurate and timely information.
Mm-hmm.
And a bookkeeper and accountant I think are kind of interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people when they hear the term accountant, they automatically think someone that prepares taxes,
Right.
generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many different types of accountants. You could have a tax accountant, you could have a cost accountant, which works in a manufacturing facility
Mm-hmm.
and is overseeing the costing on
Mm-hmm.
everything. But in terms of small business, a bookkeeper and accountant are responsible for making sure that every dollar that goes in or out gets accounted for.
Right.
Um, then the CFO is really responsible for all accounting and financial activities within a business. So anything that has to do with accounting and finance, they're responsible for, but they're also responsible for leadership. They're sometimes responsible for business development. They're sometimes responsible for investor relations. So like the
Mm-hmm.
CFO, depending on the size and the scale of a company, can have very different meanings.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was a CFO for a small business, I was also the bookkeeper and the accountant for
Got
that
it.
business
You were
as
the whole
well.
finance
I was
department.
the whole finance. And
Yes.
then, the business grew, we were able to hire some
Mm-hmm.
people.
Mm-hmm.
So, the CFO generally, they're a leader in the organization. They're
Mm-hmm.
part of the strategic team, the executive team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then a CPA is someone that, there's different types of CPAs as well. Like I like to say, when I graduated, got my CPA. I would call myself like not a worthless CPA, but I went into like auditing and
Uh-huh.
like more like, like assurance, which is more like processes and internal controls and financial reporting.
Mm-hmm.
And when people think CPA, they definitely think that I just file taxes.
Right.
They're like, they're like, so can you I've got a tax question. I'm like, dude, I have no idea. I honestly can't help you at all. Like, I thought you were a CPA. I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
am. But generally CPAs are, you know, you've got different types, but when people think of it, those are the ones that are filing tax
Mhm.
returns and advising on tax strategy and
Mhm.
stuff like that.
And
So
so then the difference in a full-time CFO for a company and a fractional CFO, which is mainly what your company
Yep.
provides.
Yep. So I mean, the only difference is just the amount of time that they spend in
Mhm.
the business. Going back to, a CFO's, um, job description varies depending on on the size and the scale of a business.
Mhm.
Um, so the difference between a CFO and a fractional CFO, like if you put them into the same business, would just be that a fractional CFO spends less time in that business. And that's
Mhm.
what's so good for small businesses because they need that cash flow, that 13-week cash flow forecast. They need their monthly financial reporting, but it's not a full-time job.
Mhm.
And so it's very economical.
Yeah, so it's not so much the leadership role as just providing the forecasting and
Right.
the information for the owner to be able to make good decisions.
Right. And
Mhm.
some of the leadership might be, just like financial leadership, like quite a few businesses we work with have an in-house accountant
Mhm.
or, an administrative function that does some bookkeeping and accounting. And we could still provide like financial leadership, like, hey, here's what we need to do kind of daily, weekly, monthly.
Right.
And so we can, a fractional CFO can still provide that,
Right,
but
because
not
if you're
that
not
day to day
right,
kind
so
of.
if you're not putting the numbers in the right place daily, then it's hard for you to be able to take that data, right, and analyze it and give good insight.
Yeah, you're spot on.
Yeah.
Um, you can't be a good CFO without good data. And that's another thing, like, when we get started with a lot of businesses, we've got to get the infrastructure right. So it's like, yes, we want to be able to create a cash flow forecast for you. Like, yes, we want to do a bunch of strategic planning, but we need the data to be accurate first
Mhm.
so that we know where we're actually starting with.
Yeah.
And even more so is like the processes and the systems and the procedures to make sure that that data is continually accurate and
Mhm.
continually valid
Mhm.
so that the garbage in, garbage out
Right.
kind of thing.
So one of my last questions is, if there's a business owner out there who's been in business for a while and their finances are a mess, their books are a mess, they don't know how they're going to pay their bills next month. Where should they start? What should they do? Find you, call you right
Yeah,
away.
or someone like us. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Find somebody that can help you,
Mhm.
get your things together, and when you're talking to that person, ask him like how they're going to do it because I mean, in a small business, you've only got so many resources, and you
Mhm.
got to take a pragmatic approach. It's like we're not going to go through every transaction and make everything perfect, but
Mhm.
what we're going to do is we're going to reconcile your bank statements, and we're going to get you a balance sheet that makes sense,
Mhm.
right? Because that's like step number one. Because if your balance sheet isn't accurate, your P&L is garbage. Like there's no
Right.
way. Like
Right.
it's like let's not even look at the P&L. So let's
Mhm.
get the balance sheet right.
Mhm.
And if everything's reconciled on the balance sheet, your P&L is going to be that the bottom number, which really matters, that's going
Mhm.
to be accurate. There might be
Mhm.
some classification issues
Mhm.
between different accounts, but at the end of the day, you'll at least know what your profitability is
Yeah.
based on. So
Yeah.
that's where I would
Yeah.
start.
Well, I cannot stress enough to every business owner or somebody who's thinking about being a business owner is to get this right from the beginning.
Yeah,
And if you're not right and you're far down the road, get it right, like whatever it takes. So, but invest in that financial clarity. I think brings so much peace to a business owner. And
exactly.
like I said earlier, I know my limitations, so I don't do my books.
Yeah.
I do not. I'm like, please help. And I focus on other areas, but financial peace is so important. And I think a lot of business owners don't survive it because it's owning a business is stressful enough.
Yep.
And if your books and your money's a mess, it makes it a million times worse. So invest in it from the beginning. I think that's a great piece of advice. Like
Definitely.
even if it even if it stretches you, even if it hurts a little bit to pay that,
Yep.
do it anyway because you're going to see the benefits long term.
Yep.
That is an ROI that you can count on. Like do it. Do it.
100%.
And if you haven't done it, do it now.
Yeah.
So, where can people find you?
We had componentassociates.biz is our website.
Okay.
We're on Instagram, and LinkedIn, I connect with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great way
Mm-hmm.
to find us. We're out in the community. If you're here local, we're
Mm-hmm.
involved a lot with local nonprofits and other organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see anybody, just
Yeah.
say hi.
Do you work only with people here locally, or do you work outside of Wilmington?
We have clients all up and down the Eastern Seaboard.
Okay.
Our focus here is Wilmington, just because we're here in Wilmington.
Mm-hmm.
But the power of word of mouth and referrals.
Mm-hmm.
You do good work for somebody, and they know somebody, their brothers, sisters. Aunt has a business
Mm-hmm.
in Florida, and next thing
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
we do have a really specialized practice for in the marine industry and boat dealerships.
Okay.
And
Didn't
so
you work in the boating industry
I
before?
did,
Okay.
yeah. So, um, and because of that, it's a pretty niche,
Mm-hmm.
market, and so we've got a specific marine industry practice, and a lot of the clients that we have out of state are
Mm-hmm.
in the marine industry in one way or another,
Mm-hmm.
because we
Yeah.
go to an annual conference and brings people from all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's very cool.
yeah,
Also, congrats on your Entrepreneur of the Year award.
same to you.
I know. That's how we met.
I know, that's so cool.
Yeah, it was great to meet you and meet so many other amazing. There's so many great businesses in this town.
It's amazing.
It is. It really is.
I
It was
mean,
inspiring.
like, I really think that you could do this podcast for years and not run out of interesting people to
I
talk to.
know. I'm so excited, and I love having these conversations because I learn and I keep growing, and I just am so proud of the city and all the businesses that we have that are flourishing, and I just think it's so special.
Me
So
too.
anyway, thank you so much for coming. It was great to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm honored that you invited me, and
Hmm.
it's a pleasure to be here and talk with you. So
Yeah, well,
thank you.
I might be calling you at some point and saying help.
Be happy to help. And like I said, I'm a huge fan of the Ibis, and I look forward to going to check out the Starling. Can't
Yes.
believe I haven't been there yet.
Well, you should go this weekend. We're having a fun event. You can go sit up on the roof and eat tacos from the kitchen and get a drink from the
Oh, that
bar.
sounds perfect.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. It was
Yep.
great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me on Business from Scratch. Follow the show for more honest conversations about building a business that works for you.